Hey there. Whenever you're building something that's going to need to be taken apart, uh, a big a part of that is drilling holes that are aligned and concentric with each other so you can pass bolts like this through there that can be repeatedly taken in and out. Um, Regular wood screws, you could do that, but there's only so many times you can do that before you wear out that hole. So bolts are your best bet, and you need, if you're going through multiple work pieces, you need them, like I said, to be concentric with each other and aligned with each other. So as you can see here, I have a bolt going through 3 pieces of wood. It's this one on the back end, so it's in that one, and then it's going through one of these in between, and then there is a backing piece right here. So they needed to all be concentric, and the best way to have concentric and aligned holes is to sandwich them together and drill them all 3 at the same time, or all 4 or 5, however many work pieces you have. Just drill them all at the same time, and that will save you so much heartache. Yeah, so let me adjust the camera so you can see the top, because the top I have not completed yet with the runner, like on the bottom. So this is going to go here, and then I'm going to have let me just grab an example. All right, so there's going to be a piece of wood about this width up here, and so I need, and I'm actually going to glue this piece in. I think that's a better method than what I did on the bottom. So it's only going to be 2 pieces, so it's not a big of a deal. So I'm going to need this to go through there and to go through there. That way I can take this out, and then if I ever move, I can take this with me without needing a massive trailer or truck. Yeah. All right, but the problem we all run into is how to get that concentric hole through all the pieces. The best way, I think, to do that in a repeatable way is the drill press. So let's go over to that. Let's go over to the drill press real quick. All right, so this is the setup that I use to drill the holes for this piece I was showing over there. The problem with this, though, is when you drill down, the quill extension or travel isn't enough to go fully through the piece of wood. So you end up with blind holes, which just means the holes are on one side, but they don't go all the way through. I used to drill all the way through first with a small pilot hole, and then once I had this pilot hole, I would drill one side and then the other and meet in the middle. But that makes for it's not as concentric as drilling all the way through. So I bought these long drill bits specifically for this purpose. But if you put a long drill bit in here, it doesn't change the travel. You could have a mile-long drill bit, and if the travel's not enough, then it's not going through. And then I would do silly things like I would drill through, and then I would undo my table, and then I would bring it up like this, start the machine, and then I would go all the way through. And that does work, but it is slow and annoying. And then I realized once you drill the pilot, or once you drill this blind hole, you've got a built-in drill guide at this point. So you just get your long bit, or you can even use the smaller bit if it's long enough. Then you can just use a hand drill. There's no limit to the travel on a hand drill. You can just pop it in, and go all the way through, and it's going to be straight. It's going to be more accurate than doing the thing that I just showed you, or doing the pilot hole and then drilling through both sides. And and then so those ways do work. They're slower, and I don't prefer them. But this next way is, you should never do this. It's where you grab like a square of some sort, and then you mark your hole. You can kind of see that line right there. You mark your hole, and you line it up, and then now you got that line, and you just follow that line around, and you end up with the line on the other side. But the thing is, at least with wood isn't dimensionally very accurate. It looks accurate, but the wood was a living thing, and its environment causes it to warp and change. The thing that has the most impact on it is humidity, so it'll change its shape, and so when you're referencing off of a side, that side has to be perfectly 90 degrees to the other side. Otherwise, you're going to get lines that are skewing off, and it's just not going to be. It's not an accurate way to do it. I think with machining, because metal is not as subject to these inconsistencies, especially after you mill it accurately, so you can get away with it. I think. I mean, if not, somebody in the comments just let me know. But yeah, you shouldn't. I don't think you should ever use that method. All right, now here is the part that makes my preferred method the best. Once you get, let me go that example piece. So once you get those blind guide holes, you put the piece you need to be aligned concentrically, and so you set it up exactly how it's going to be in your project, and then you finish off the hole in the original one, and that guides all the way through to the piece that you need to be aligned. It makes everything so much easier, smoother, faster, more accurate. Now, if you have a lot of the same piece you're making and you need to batch it out, then you should probably set up a jig, and then you might even want to try to go ahead and set the jig up so you can drill these holes, and you don't have to do the method I just showed. But when you do that, you run the risk of not aligning the holes, and this is especially difficult if your hole is very tight tolerances with your fastener. See, there's not much movement there. Now, if I drilled this a little oversized, I could get away with just a little bit of wiggle. But the thing is, when you're making, you saw the shelf I was making over there, if the tolerances are too loose, it's going to shake. So I wanted to keep the tolerances kind of tight, and then if you can just always hammer it in to get a real tight fit. But I still think the method of clamping it together and then drilling it in place is the best way to go. Now, when you do that, though, especially if you're going to need to take it apart for whatever other processes you're doing to the project, you're going to want to mark it. So, like throw an A, like if this was, you just throw an A right here, or even close together. So you throw an A right here, then you put an A on the mating piece. And that just makes sure, because even when they're all exactly the same and you use the jig, inevitably something's going to shift and it's going to make everything a little bit different, and it's going to be so annoying. And you're going to have to come back and forth. You're going to ruin pieces like this because you're going to have to drill multiple holes. The holes are going to be so close, they overlap. That's not going to work. It's a dumpster fire. And to avoid all of that, all you have to do is just clamp it together and drill it in place. Yeah. So I hope that helps.